corporation's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There will be time for public participation as indicated by the agenda. The meeting site is fully accessible. Any person requiring further accommodation should contact the superintendent at the school corporation central office. As is our custom, we begin our time together with a prayer. Mrs. Hutchison?
Sure. Dear God, thank you for this beautiful weather, and guide us tonight as we make decisions that will impact the future of our district. Be with our students and their families, and our teachers and their families, and all of our staff and their families this summer. Keep us all safe and bring us back in the fall ready to engage in a new school year. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, I'll now call the meeting to order. Will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Would you like to lead that, Trey?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call. Everyone is present, so we do have a quorum. Mission statement, Mr. Parks.
Lebanon Community School Corporation will cultivate and reach every student by influencing and enriching their lives through the power of education, and do so in a positive and safe learning environment.
Okay, thank you. Item 2, approval of minutes for the May 18th regular meeting. Like a motion to approve those, please? Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Any questions on those? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Consent agenda for staff matters. Dr. Millman.
Thank you, Mrs. Keith. It is hiring season in public schools, so we have several new hires for your consideration this evening, and matters around staff. Under item A for classified, we're recommending a school nurse position at Lebanon Middle School, 2 custodial positions, and an instructional assistant at the IU Methodist Children's Home position for this evening. That's all under classified. Under item B for certified this evening, this is our longest list this evening. We have 1 maternity leave, 1 resignation, 1 teaching position at Harney Elementary, 1 speech language pathologist position at Central, 1 visual arts teacher at Central, 1 physical education teacher at Central Elementary, 1 temp classroom teacher at Central Elementary, and 1 extended school year recommendation. Just for the board's information, the extended school year recommendations might be for a student with exceptional needs that through the case conference determined that the school year needed to be extended, and we offer that to our teaching staff to support those students in that extended situation. We have a science recommendation at Lebanon Middle School, also at Lebanon Middle School Special Education, Language Arts, 2 math positions, a business teaching position, and a speech language pathologist position. At Lebanon High School, 2 agriculture teacher positions and 1 special education position. Administratively, we have 1 administrative recommendation for you this evening. And under extracurricular, under item C, Ms. Scoble is recommending positions for boys soccer, girls soccer, football, volleyball, and cross country. And at the high school this evening, and tennis and cheerleading and golf as I turn the page. Thank you. At the high school this evening, under extracurriculars, Mr. Levine is recommending a varsity cheerleading coach for the 2021-22 school year, and Mr. O'Rourke is recommending 2 class sponsor positions. Long list this evening for your consideration. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. I'd like a motion to approve the staff matters as presented by Dr. Milliman.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Questions, concerns? Are we fully staffed after this long list?
We are not.
We are not?
We have moved to put a full-time physical education, music, and art teacher at Central Elementary. We still have the music position to fill.
I just had a comment.
And maybe one more, Mrs. Beltran? Is that the only one right now? I think that's the only. We have some elementary listed. We also have some instructional assistant positions that are unfilled right now. I'd say 3 to 5 instructional assistants, but 1 certified
Special ed
position.
Stokes.
And a new special ed at
Special ed at
Stokes. If you
Stokes.
approve one of the resignations this evening, we'll have another opening.
Okay.
And I just wanted to make a quick comment. So just looking through the list, it's encouraging and grateful for several former students to
Yes.
coming in as coaches.
Yes,
So
and teachers.
That puts, that's.
And
good.
teachers.
And
We're bringing
yeah.
them back in teaching positions as well. Very pleased to do that.
Great.
Several of those positions are being funded by the ESSER II and the ESSER III grants.
Okay, if there are no further questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you. I'm going to pause for a moment there and invite Mr. Levine forward. Our new varsity cheerleading coach is with us this evening. I'll let you come up and introduce her, Phil. Come on up. Yeah, we've got to make you use the mic now.
Thank you all. I'm very excited to have the opportunity to introduce to you Shannon Calger. We're very excited. She brings a lot of knowledge and experience to the sport of cheerleading. We're proud of her daughter who just graduated and is continuing her cheerleading career at Butler University. So now she has the time to jump in and take over the program. So without further ado, Shannon.
I just came to introduce myself. I'm Shannon Calger. I know some of you. So I grew up in Lebanon, was born at Witham Hospital, so was my mom. My kids grew up in the school as well. My son just graduated from Butler. He was a 2017 grad of Lebanon. And then my daughter, as Coach Levine, as Mr. Levine said, just graduated from Lebanon this school year and will be attending Butler, where she will continue to cheer. And so I spent the last 5 years, probably 8 to 10 hours a week in the cheer gym, because I just love it and I'm so passionate about it. I cheered at Lebanon, of course, encouraged my daughter to do it, and she had the passion for it like I do, and now I find myself with all this time on my hands, and this opportunity came about, so I'm very, very excited. So thank you all for the opportunity.
Great.
Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome.
And with the board's action this evening, I'm very, very pleased to share with the group that we have now made it official, so I can introduce her. Appointed Mackenzie Lacrone as the new principal of Central Elementary. Come on up, and I'm going to brag about you a little bit. Welcome to, yeah, sure, you can do that. I'd like to thank our elementary principals and board members and community teachers from Central that helped us on the selection committee and interview committee. Very pleased. So I've got some things just to share with you about Mackenzie. She is most recently the assistant principal in Carmel Clay Schools at Town Meadow Elementary. She has ties to Lebanon, as her husband and his family is from the Lebanon community, and they continue to enjoy their family here in town. Prior to her appointment as assistant principal, she's taught in elementary classrooms spanning multiple grade levels. She comes to us with a wealth of classroom teaching and leadership experiences, has a deep understanding of teaching, learning, and assessment. Mackenzie has successfully improved student achievement across a diverse set of student profiles, including accelerated learners, students speaking English as their new language, and students with exceptional needs. She has experience with a variety of instructional materials, programs, and methodologies, and as a teacher and administrator, including some of the materials we use here, which is exciting that you've used in the past as well. Mrs. Lacrone has successfully led staff development, created and led systemic academic and behavioral student support programs, and is a certified school safety specialist. Mr. Smith, certified school safety specialist. And she led a team of Carmel Clay administrators in their school safety protocols. She was awarded a Woodrow Wilson Fellowship to earn her master's in administration at the University of Indianapolis. This program is designed through the lens of business as well as school leadership, earning the participants an MBA in school leadership. This experience provides her a high business acumen as well as skills in developing strategic plans and action plans based on strong data analysis. We are very excited to have her join our team. The community is going to have an opportunity to meet Mackenzie and her family Thursday night, I should say, Thursday, in an open house at the middle school. We've invited the central staff and any staff to come at 5, and then we're opening up to the public at 6 o'clock. And so we are very, very excited and thrilled that she's going to be joining our talented administrative team. So now you can applaud one more time. And I'm going to ask her to maybe say a few words, maybe introduce her lovely family, and talk about what you're excited about. Come on up, guys.
Come on up, guys, lovely family. Thank you, Dr. Millman. I just want to say I am beyond thrilled for this opportunity to lead and learn alongside the staff and families of Central Elementary at Lebanon. I want to thank the board. I want to thank Dr. Millman for and everyone on the interview committee for giving me this opportunity. I know it's going to be a fantastic year, and I hope to bring the knowledge I have and add that to all the wonderful things Central Elementary is already doing. So I'm super excited and thankful, and I'm really ready to get started. This is my beautiful family. This is Emerson. She will be in 7th grade. Gunnar, he will be in 8th grade. Amara, who will be in 4th grade. And my husband, Adam, who is a Hamilton County deputy. So I'm looking forward to the open house and to talking and meeting and getting started. So thank you again. I'm very excited.
Here, I got gifts. We have gifts. There's work in it. There's actually work in it. No.
I'm good.
Very good. Welcome. Thank you for being here tonight and bringing your family along. All right. Item 4, consent agenda for business matters. Mr. Tate?
Yes, my pleasure to report to the board and the community this evening. Our monthly financial report shows these percents expended. Education fund at 38.44%, operation fund at 32.95%. At this time, I ask for approval of claims numbered 53439 through 53585 and the payrolls dated May 28th and June 11th of 2021. The claims total $6,198,832.26. The payrolls total $1,776,779.89 for a total of $7,975,612.15. The claims are higher than normal because we have a couple of our debt payments scheduled in there to be wired at the end of the month.
Okay. All right, great, thank you. I'd like a motion to approve the consent agenda business matters, approval of claims for payment 53439 through 53585, and payrolls for May 28th and June 11th, please.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. A second? All right, any questions on that? Okay, all right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, next item, superintendent announcements and celebrations. Dr. Milliman.
Thank you. Just some brief announcements this evening. First, just want to congratulate the class of 2021 and Lebanon High School administrators, sponsors, and the faculty on another successful commencement. It was a great evening, a little windy, but it was better than the 10 o'clock originally scheduled time where it was, I believe, 40 degrees and also windy. So, but it ended up being a beautiful day, and congratulations to them. There's a lot of work behind the scenes that goes into making that happen. So, thank you and congratulations to them. Last week, we held training with the International Center for Leadership and Education. Mrs. Hutchison and Mrs. Keith may remember that's the group they had 2 years ago when we actually were able to have it in person, first of the school year meeting with our teachers. They brought some dynamic speakers with them and to kick off that professional development. That's the group that's conducting the professional development for us. We had 35 elementary and 35 secondary teachers complete the Foundation of Instructional Excellence experience. Each school staff left with a plan to build capacity of teachers, coaches, and instructional staff, focusing on rigorous and relevant learning experiences empowered through strong relationships. I just want to take a moment and thank our staff after this long and trying year to turn back around and spend 2 full days working on instructional methodology. So I just wanted to commend them and thank our administrative staff for that. That's all I have for announcements this evening.
Okay, thank you. All right, item 6, comments from the public. I don't believe we have anyone signed in. Okay. And go on to item 7, which includes several action items. A is request approval of 21-22 LHS Athletic Handbook. Mr. Levine.
Thank you. Hopefully you have everything or in front of you, or you had everything. There really is only 3 changes, and I'll just highlight them so I don't have to take up a lot of time this evening. The first change is basically a change that the IHSA is making to their number of days of practices missed, where you have to have a certain number of practices in. If you miss too many, the original rule was days of practices you missed, but because of the COVID situation, they're changing that rule, the IHSA, to days you missed, not practices, days. So they're increasing that number. It's 8 to 10 days. If you miss 8 to 10 days, you're out consistent for a period of time, 8 to 10 days, and you'll have to have 4 practices in before you, 4 days of practice in before you can return. What was happening is the teams are going in quarantine, taking their 14 days off, coming back and playing games immediately after a 14-day rest period because they didn't miss any practices. So they've changed the ruling to days. So we are updating the handbook to follow the guidelines that the IHSA is following. The second change is basically to identify the requirements for girls wrestling to receive a letter. We wanted to separate that out from boys wrestling because the girls wrestling schedule is a little different than the boys. And so we wanted to have the equivalent to receive a letter, but understanding that the competitions, they may not have as many, so they have to do certain things to achieve that letter. So that was the second thing we added in. And then the third thing is basically just removing the lettering requirements because of COVID from last year, which we were allowing a spring athlete that a coach recognized this year that would have lettered last year to receive 2 letters this year. We don't need that anymore in our handbook. Other than that, the athletic handbook will remain the same. So I'm open to any questions.
All right, thank you. I'd like a motion to approve the athletic handbook as presented.
I'll motion.
Okay, second.
I'll second.
Any questions on the handbook or changes? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion
Thank you.
passes. Thank you. All right, request approval of LHS auditorium equipment upgrade. Mr. Thatcher, Mr. Tate, the expert.
I can come out of my room for one.
You gotta
for a
come
couple
out.
minutes here. So I'm requesting that we that we upgrade the sound system, really the sound board, as you would have traditionally called it. Now that's all a digital system, so that's really a whole series of components that includes. This system was put in when we renovated in 2013. It's a computer. It's 8 years old. So just at the point now, I think we're nearing that end of life. So in discussion with Mr. Tate, I'm bringing you 2 proposals or 2 quotes today for it. I'm recommending the Crown Design Group, which actually is one of my former students, Luke Wheat, works for them, and he's designed this system. So, and that was the lower bid of the 2. So that's my recommendation.
All right, great. I'd like a motion to approve the upgrade to the LHS equipment using Crown Design, right? Okay.
Crown Design Group.
Thank you.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second. Any questions on that? think it's hard to believe we're already to this point, but I've heard anecdotally that there are
just-
definitely some needs
It's
there.
just-
So can we reuse anything that's already here in a different way, or?
So, I mean, right now, in discussion with Mr. Tate, we've talked about we could put it up for public auction. That system, when I looked it up on eBay, which is not the same, I know that, but, you know, they're selling for a couple $1,000s, so we might look at trying to auction it off,
Okay.
in case somebody is interested in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah, donation, okay.
Yep.
Boat anchor. I don't have a boat. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, there we go. Thank you. C, request approval of corporation radio system replacement. Mr. Tate, Chief Smith, Mrs. Nichols.
Good evening. I'm going to try to take you on a 2-year journey in about 2 minutes. Ever since the corporation started upgrading their security protocols and procedures, it's always been evident that one of the weaknesses is communication. We had 2 or 3 different kind of radios that the school corporation was using. Then you add on the police radio on top of that. You have, you know, at least the SROs and a couple of administrators carrying 2 and 3 different kind of radios just to communicate normal business, let alone if we had an emergency. So I reached out a couple years ago to Raycom, who's been our vendor for a long time, and talked to Megan Wathen over in Pittsburgh, just searching. And this is what we have, this is what doesn't work, and this is what I would like to see possible. And she'd scratch her head and she said, I don't know why it's not doing that now. And we have some Wi-Fi issues, we have some connectivity issues, we have some location issues with our school buildings. So a year went by and we'd have casual conversation once in a while. And I finally asked, what radios do you have that would work? Now you know what we are looking for, what you have that works. And she started discussing radios and models and things. So I started discussing cost, and she goes, well, you do know that the school buses radios are at the end of their life. If they would break down, there's no parts, there's no repair for that radio, they would have to get a brand new radio. So now might be a good time to kind of look at the entire system. So that's kind of what we've been doing in the last several months. And with Megan and Becky as input, we've come up with this proposal to give every teacher a radio, every school building connectivity on the radio system with a repeater at the building rather than just one, which is on the water tower. Upgrade that repeater as well because it's end of life here in a couple of years as well. So just as the auditorium and community room equipment is dated, so are our radios. So you've got the notes in front of you. This will put a radio in every teacher, every school building. They go out for recess, they go out for normal course of business, they'll have communications. You know, the worst comes to be, and we actually have an emergency event, they'll also have a means of communication as well, outside of cell phone towers, outside of something else, and it'll be our in-house radio. Completely programmable. Years past, they would have to be programmed by touching every radio, every bus to reprogram. With this radio management system on the top proposal here, it's all done on software computer. Takes, you know, minutes to hours what it used to be. And they still charge you for that work, but when you're talking matter of minutes to hours and days, it's a huge money savings as well. So in a nutshell, and I could sit up here and talk for 2 years and bore you to death, but Megan, Raycom Motorola, is promising that this system will be a lot better. I think there was a map in your notes. That's just of the middle school. That's not the entire corporation coverage. That's just what the repeater at the middle school will cover for the middle school. Roughly 2.5 mile coverage of the building. So each school will have that same type of coverage as well. The school buses will have the same powerful repeaters they have now, but going from a different frequency from 800 to UHF. It's a farther reaching frequency, goes through buildings a little better, and she'll have more coverage as well. So what am I forgetting?
I
think that's it. I mean, the reason we asked for the, kind of that map to show us what the footprint would be of where the radio would cover is, I know, like, at the middle school, Mr. Cosgrave will take PE kids to the park. And Central sometimes walks to the park, Kearney will walk to the park. At least if we know now that these radios will work there, you know, the teacher can take it and go all the way to Memorial Park and still be able to contact the school building if they were to need that or have an emergency, which is wonderful if we're gonna put it in the teacher's hands. We wanted to make sure that it was, you know, a usable device.
That is, Steve, part of this as well. Teachers will have devices.
Correct.
So I think I'm not sure that was clear to everybody
And
who's
it's the modern
listening
day-
online, that this will provide teachers with radios.
Yes.
Yeah.
Could you
Modern day radios, they have an emergency button on them as well, which will identify the user of the radio. If they're not able to speak, they can hit that orange button and sends out an emergency tone too, so,
There'll be-
pretty good system.
There'll be different channels of communication.
Yes.
So that there'll be a channel for SROs, be channel for administration, channel for Harney teachers, so that there won't be cross traffic, but yet we could turn it to listen to everything if I wanted to, type of thing. But so that's another feature in this. This is a little bit different process than just going to get quotes. An RFP is a request for proposal. So we put that out there and advertise that. So we have guidelines that we wanted in all of these proposals, but it also lets the companies bring their expertise to us, asking us questions, what use will you have, where we use it, how we use it, and they can add their expertise to it. So that's kind of a different way of getting quotes. There's a request for proposal. You'll see that there were other companies that showed interest in that but did not respond to the request for proposal. You also see that Raycom has a with radio management and no radio management, and the recommendation is to go with the radio management. There's other questions?
Yeah,
Or
well, I was just gonna ask, could you explain the difference between radios in hand for teachers and what they currently have, and the benefit that they're gonna now have with actually having the radios in the hand compared to what they have in their schools?
Some of the schools have done a pretty good job of trying to organize that when a classroom or a teacher's gonna leave the building. There's a limited number of radios, which is not all of them are on the school corporation frequency. They're just an in-house radio, but it's a mean of communication. But not every school has that. Some school buildings will go out and the teachers are out there and they don't have anything other than maybe their cell phone in their pocket to be able to call for help. They currently don't have, at least not 100% coverage of ability to communicate. And with our protocols and the freedom that we have with evacuation now, self-evacuation, if there's something going on one end of the building, our protocols allow you to evacuate the other end of the building. Those people immediately can leave the building, teacher can grab the radio and still have communications wherever they go to. So
Great
I think it's going to be a good safety, increased
What is the
ability.
life of these radios? So if they can be updated through software now, you know, will the equipment last long enough for the next several years that they can continually be updated, or will we have to look at?
We asked that same very question, and I think the response that Megan gave us was, you're going to at least 10 years.
Okay. Thank you.
And how are staff trained? Will you do the training? Will Raycom
Yes,
do the, you will
yes,
do the
we'll,
training?
there'll be a learning curve to it. The
Sure.
radios are very similar to what the school corporation has now, little radios. High school is a super user, and it's a valuable tool for communication here at the high school. I'd like to see everybody have that same
radio.
ability. So there'll be a learning curve, but yes, we will do the training.
You'll be the trainer.
And we will collectively talk to the buildings and other stakeholders to see what frequencies they want in the radio. You know, right now, the school may just have one frequency or one channel. They have the ability to have 2 or 3 or whatever they want, administration only, administration and teachers, a talk group only, that type of thing. So there's a lot of work to be done, but we'll spearhead the training part of it.
Okay, thank you.
What is the time of implementation? How long will it take?
Well,
We hope by the start of the school year, but because of all these containers sitting out in the ocean that they can't get their parts, we're not sure, to be honest. But if they can get all the equipment, which one of kind of Megan's boss through Motorola, rather than Raycom through Motorola, has reached out and said, you know, if you get this ready to go and we're gonna do it, then we'll make sure we get it done. So we're hoping that they're, you know, able to follow through and get it all done to be able to roll it out at the beginning of the school year. But that's gonna be a lot of,
The time will
Lot of
be
work.
installing the bus radios.
Yeah.
You'll have to
Yeah.
have technicians come out, remove radios, reinstall radio in the bus. That's what'll take time, but unbelievably, they're only talking like a week or two to do that, so. There's a possibility by the school year, but I'm not gonna count on it.
and it may be something that if we can't do it before the school year starts, we might have to push it back to like fall break. We'll just need a
Right.
time that
We
all
need
the
the
buses
time
are on
to-
the lot at the same time to get them all turned over to the new equipment, so.
Okay. Any other questions?
Thanks Steve and Becky for their work on this and their expertise too. At this time, our recommendation is to take the proposal from Raycom with the radio management for $413,817.40. My recommendation is also that we take the finance option where we pay $50,000 for the initials, install, and pay the balance with a proposed GO bond, which we've discussed. Another option would, if it comes to fruition, is with the ESSER 3 grant, as I stated, we are paying for the Harney air handlers with GO bond money. We put in the ESSER 3 grant to pay those air handlers with the ESSER 3. If that is approved with ESSER 3, then I will put that money, I'll pay for it out of ESSER 3. That'll free up money in the GO bond. We possibly could pay for this program all together with the current 2018 GO bond. So, but at this time, my recommendation is to do the finance option, paying with $50,000 from the GO bond and the balance with the future GO bond
And when would the balance be due?
after full installation. After we receive the money from the 2021 GO bond, which will be November or December.
I think, and I think
Okay.
the lease.
I've got the dominoes here. You see the dominoes?
I think the lease agreement actually states after the first of the year, I mean,
Yeah.
when you actually were able to.
At
get
least
that.
by then, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And one more thing to add real quick, if you guys didn't see, is there is some trade-in dollars that we'll get off of some of the equipment that we'll turn back into them. Motorola offers, a kickback for turning old equipment in, so we'll do that as well.
And that's not accounted in the total right now?
Yes.
Oh, it is?
Well, it's got a series trade in there at the bottom in the white, $9,100.
Oh, yeah, she did
Yep.
put it in there.
Well, there we
Sorry.
go.
Yep,
Okay.
yeah, that's for the trade-in dollars.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay, so, I'd like a motion to approve the project as presented, using the finance option with the $50,000 down, determining later how we pay the balance.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Second on that? All right. Any further questions? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. Item D, request approval of Herman B. Wells equipment upgrade. Mr. Martin and Mr. Tate.
Sent you a 3-page document. I kept the other 43 pages. I have printed 2 copies. If anybody wants them, I'll give you those. But it's the individual proposals for each one of these items. I also have an email ready to send. I just didn't want to cloud the details with all of those details. It's detailed enough.
Yes.
So, in 2011, this place was designed, 2012 installation. So basically the technology is 2011. The little touch panel you see me running around and turning on panels and stuff, that technology has been made obsolete with iPads. At 2011, iPads were still hoped to be as useful as they are. And so nowadays the technology is modularized. You have a module that you'll replace instead of having to gut the whole system. So the cabling that they're putting in has modules on the end to connect HDMI to, so that we can replace the modules in the future. If HDMI 2.0 is what is necessary in 10 years, that's what we will be doing. on the cables that'll be left. This one, unfortunately, we have big, thick cables in the wall. We'll have to pull them out, and part of this project one is the cabling. The cable ends for the TV and projectors and the inputs and all the control systems. So the little touch panel tells me to take input from Mr. Parks' desk and put it on all TVs. I could do that, but that switching technology, we're not going to put all those in your desk. We haven't used them in 10 years, so we're not going to do it that way. Apple TV has made that obsolete, so I'm presenting with Apple TV, and when Dr. Milliman does his presentation later on, he'll just switch to his laptop. So a lot of the technology has become obsolete. We don't have to put so much money in here as we did in the first stage. So basically, project one is the wiring, the controls, and the touch panels. They'll be iPads with an app. They'll be mounted in these 3 rooms to the wall. We'll have an app for a couple of iPads and a touch panel in the control room. They recommend at least one hardwired machine device. On project one, there's an option to put a sidewall screen in 2. At the very bottom, I suggest we not opt for that this time. We want to get more bids on that particular part of the project. We also want a bit more input about usability of the room. That would fit when we have all 3 rooms together. We have a stage, you have a screen, but we really wanted to get a better layout, figure out what would be most appropriate in that position, because it was a, I forget, $17,000 project. No, yeah, it was $17,000 or so. I don't want to spend that unless we really think about that one first. I want more input. And we didn't want to hold the whole project up. We have only a little bit of a chance to get through this whole project this summer anyway, mainly because of, as with the radios, shortages in supply chain. Project 2, projectors. I know that Mrs. Keith has been at at least one meeting where these projectors are down and they're not bright enough. The walls do produce just a bit too much streaming light, the doorways. They were good on paper at 4,500 lumens, but these are 9,000, so there'll be definitely enough brightness to see them with the room lights up, and the windows will be still closed, but there just isn't quite enough brightness there. And that's project 2. That's 3 projectors. We bought one. We were going to try and do it in-house, realized the complexities of the mount, and we don't want that hanging over somebody's head if we're just not sure exactly everything that's going on. So we decided to go ahead and put our purchased projector, 2 more new ones, and then the mounts through a company. That same company who's going to do the wiring for that same technology. They'll still be able to use the electric. They just need to put in the other wires. And these monitors are 55. There'll be 75s if you approve project community room monitors about project 3. And they're professional monitors, or they're sign terminals rather than just TVs. They do have some TV functionality, but like today's TVs, they don't have a TV tuner. But most of the TVs in our houses, that's iffy in those situations too. All right. Any questions on the, well, you see my recommendation, the bottom half of the next page. Recommended not include the community room screen ad, but most responsive bidder was CTI, cost differences being installation services. We do recommend and request the following: approval of proposals from the Conference Technologies Incorporated with Project 1 Conference Center AV upgrade, including the 2-year service agreement, Project 2, the projector upgrade, and community room monitors option. And so the total cost is $129,144.08.
Okay. Very good. Mr. Tate, did you have something to add
No,
to
I
that, or?
thank Mr. Martin for his
Think that's-
expertise and work on this with Bronson.
Yep.
It's an upgrade that we do need. As I've stated in the background notes, we'll fund this from the 2018 GEO bond.
Okay. All right, I would like a motion to approve the recommendation that you just so clearly laid out. Project 1, Project 2, monitor option, the 2-year service agreement on Project 1 for a grand total of $129,144.08. Someone to make a motion to approve that, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
No second.
Any questions? I think, again, timing, I don't know if you touched on that a little bit this summer. What do you think the likelihood of getting it done?
Bronson has been instrumental. I really want to thank Bronson for his technical input on this. Has he given you any new clues? He didn't.
Hopefully at the end of the summer.
Okay. Okay.
I've scheduled several periods of time where nothing can be dropped in on us in these two spaces, just in case we have it.
Okay.
I'm hoping it doesn't go into the summer, because some of this project is going to take the rooms out of commission for a little while they're running wires. But as soon as they run out the wires, the rest of the rooms could be usable. So hopefully we don't have to really kind of
Down too long.
take it down too long.
Yeah, okay.
So I'll ask the question that's been asked on the rest. Can the projectors be repurposed, or are we selling them, or is that part of the package as well? that they-
I did not look at this. I don't think Bronson did either.
We can look into
Sell or repurpose, I don't know if it were elsewhere, if they fit or work.
Yep, they,
Yeah.
the bulbs are the weak point, and that's another feature of the new bulbs. They're not bulbs, they're laser and LED. So the technology is much, like 10 times as long of life of 30,000 hours. In the new technology, the old technology is just, it's bright, but it's not up, it's gone obsolete.
We can also list them on the public auction site to see what we can get out of them.
Or be another boat anchor too,
Another
right?
boat
Plenty of
There's
those
a lot of
tonight.
boats out there,
Anything else? All right, all those in favor of purchasing the equipment upgrade signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chad.
All right, item E, recommendation for SRO pay for 2021, 2022. Mr. Tate, please.
Yes, in your background notes, you'll see my recommendation supported by Dr. Milliman. Our SROs are on a July 1 through June 30th contracts. That's why I'm bringing these to you at this time, off cycle of other non-certified staff. So recommendation is for each of the SROs for their pay increases are before you. Request approval of those.
Okay. I'd like a motion to approve the SRO pay for the 2021-22 school year, please. I just been talking too long today.
Make a motion.
Thank you. Second, please.
I'll motion.
Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. All right, item F, review of Medicaid overpayment and request approval to reimburse the state. Mr. Tate.
Yes, come across an issue with Go Solutions and Medicaid. So due to the absence of required documentation with submitting claims to Medicaid for occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech therapy services provided to our students, it was determined that Lebanon School Corp is required to disclose to the Indiana Health Coverage Program an overpayment amount of $481,725.76. Lebanon School Corp has already provided payment to IHCP in the amount of $60,046.41 on May 27th. I'm asking board to authorize the balance of the payment due to Indiana Health Coverage Program by utilizing $100,000 from the Rainy Day Fund and $321,793.35 from the Medicaid Reimbursement Fund.
Okay, thank you. Board, I'd like a motion on this item, please.
Well, I'll move to approve payment to the Indiana Health Coverage Program in the amount of $421,893.35, with $100,000 paid from Rainy Day Fund and the balance paid from Medicaid Reimbursement Fund.
Okay, a second on that, please.
I'll second.
All right. Any questions, comments on that this time?
Well, it's unfortunate. That is quite a bit of money. So I know that everything is being investigated in terms of how this happened, and I know there are new procedures being put in place. There are new people involved now, so hopefully this will not ever happen again, because that is a very large amount of money to have to pay back to the state, so.
What options are out there for us to investigate further possible recoupment, or, you know, can you speak to that?
Right. We'll always work with legal counsel, you know, as well as in-house procedures. Obviously, such as alluded to, in-house procedures have already been put in place to address the situation. We will we'll have to look at previous correspondences, previous trainings that may have taken place, and then determine, you know, if any action needs to be taken to attempt to recoup that. So we'll keep the board obviously informed on that as the investigation continues. This came to light late April, early May, so we're still really in the infancy stage of the why. At this point, we have to deal with the what, and we'll continue to investigate. If Charles has anything else to
We're
add.
also working with our insurance company, Liberty, seeing if we have coverage with our errors of admission, professional liability. Now, I was talked to the claims adjuster on that about an hour already, and she's also seeking further information. So we're hopeful we'll have some coverage there also.
Thank you for your work so far, and I just know that it's not gonna just stop today. We're gonna continue chasing it down to get to the bottom, and yes.
And it is accurate that the Go Solutions contract ends at the end of this month, correct? And we will not be renewing that?
There's a third part, yes, the company that Charles alluded to is a third-party billing company is utilized by all of the 6 school corporations in the Joint Service Special Education Group. That agreement terminates on June 30th, 2021. That will not be extended past that date.
Thank you.
And a note that all the other schools are in a
By
similar.
all 6 school
All
corporations.
6 are in a
Joint
similar
services. Yes,
situation.
I should say, I think by all 6 school corporations. We have a meeting on Monday, but
Yeah.
I'm confident in saying a majority of the 6 until I get confirmation.
Yeah.
Anything else on that item? Okay, motion on the table is to approve the Medicaid overpayment request, reimburse the state. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes.
Thank
Item
you.
G, thank you. Renewal of Young Scholars Preschool Contract. Mr. Martin.
Good evening. Last year, this contract had a few other clauses related to them starting earlier than us because of COVID and our backed off start dates and such. That's the primary items that were removed. We also put in the changes to the date. Other than that, in the YSPP program, you are seeing where we've been operating previously.
All right, I'd like a motion to approve the renewal of the Young Scholars Preschool Contract, please.
Make motion.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Any questions on that? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. And Mr. Martin with the renewal of base contracts, please.
The base contract is before you. I have left highlighted by accident the version that you get, or you have, with the dates that were changed, and other than that, the document is the same as previous years for base.
Okay. All right, I'd like a motion to approve the renewal of the base contract, please.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Any questions on that contract? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. And Mr. Martin with the 8th grade trip to Washington DC.
Yep, let me get, I had those two pulled up, and here we go. That's the wrong one. Here we go. 8th grade trips to Washington DC, spring of 2022, May 17th to 21st. We're asking for the opportunity to begin planning with the thought of COVID procedures being always able to change plans. So the process will be making sure that we have the trip insurance, or at least the trip contracts with COVID situations as a clause, yes. So at this point, if this was right now, we still wouldn't be allowing them to leave in the current climate. And right now, we're not, we're at least saying there's no out-of-state trips at this point. So, but at this point, we want to be able to plan. We've got a couple of others beginning.
How hopeful we're going. It is. It's a good request. The itinerary is, obviously, the timing is different than the past 8th grade trips, but the itinerary looks similar.
The what he's given us here in the way of itinerary, like the unknown soldiers and the social studies aspects of social government. So yes,
Okay.
his intent would be that.
Great. All right, like a motion to approve the middle school 8th grade trip to Washington DC.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Any further questions on that?
I know of one 8th grader is excited.
I know of some too. It's a very good thing to see come across.
Mr. Polston's real excited too.
I bet he is.
Doesn't matter how many he's been on, he loves those trips.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Passes as well, thank you. Informational items, 2021, 2022 reopening plans.
Thank you.
Dr.
I will
Miller.
try to make this as efficient and brief as possible. The Lacrone family wants to go out for ice cream, so I'm going to, I'll make this as brief as I can. Yeah, you're going out for ice cream, kids.
Better hurry before it
Say,
closes,
ice
though,
cream
right?
paradise.
ICP
They're gonna
closes at
close.
9.
Dairy Queen's up until 10.
Okay.
There we go. I do want to bring to the board for information this evening. We've been working with the health department. The state health department has provided some updated guidance since our last conversation. The timing of this might be a little bit awkward in that we know our families want some more up-to-date information. As you know, the governor's executive order regarding schools expires on June 30th, giving school boards the authority to make the reopening plans and requirements for their individual school districts on July 1. With our school board meeting on July 20th, it'd be my thought to gather your input this evening so that we could confidently communicate with our families soon after July 1. We may be asking for a retroactive, if you will, approval from the board to get that officially in the record. But be great to get your questions this evening and concerns, and we'll continue to gather that information leading up to July 1. But I know our families and faculty are going to want this information as quickly as they can as well. So I'll go through it as efficiently as I can. Jen Totterud shared this with you. This is currently on our website. Our intent is to start the school year in 2021-22, what we call phase 6 of the plan, which is all of our schools open 100% and in person. There may be some unique circumstances, medical circumstances, as families may need to reach out to their individual administration with the in-person. We would find that those would likely be very rare situations, but if that's the case, we will communicate with families that they can do that on an individual basis. But our intent is to operate K-12 in person 100% without a remote option for the masses, if you will, except for those unique situations. Again, I mentioned we'll be bringing something for official board action into the July meeting. Just to run down the things that will continue in place, we'll continue to use our plexiglass like we have right now, UV light sources, our air filtration, our additional custodial staff will be on staff for at least another school year. Training on updated protocols, staff and students, obviously, all the encouragement that we've had to hand washing, et cetera. We'll continue the use of the water bottle filling stations. And the daily screener, that really is just communication with the community before they enter the building, saying if you have these symptoms, please take those precautions, whatever they may be. That's a little bit fancier in writing than it actually is in practice. We'll continue to alter as we need to with the health department, visitors and volunteers. We have updated our classroom guidelines. I'll share those with the board. I have already discussed those with LCTA. So we have returned to normal, if you will, in a lot of aspects of the classroom. For example, students sitting on floor, students being able to work in groups, things of that nature. Some of those things we'll see returning to our classrooms. So I know our teachers will be appreciative of that, as will students and families. So I'll make sure you all get a copy of that updated classroom guideline. This is probably one of the hottest topics that people are curious about, so I'll just kind of read through these bullet points. While technically optional, the use of masks will be recommended for unvaccinated individuals in schools and during school activities. We certainly won't be able to, we won't know from person to person or student to student or staff to staff whether that vaccination is in place or not. So that's hence the term optional, because the health department, CDC, does recommend, if you're unvaccinated, to wear those face coverings. So to be consistent with that language, that's why this bullet point is phrased in that manner. The health department, however, may require that we require face coverings for a grade level or a department, depending on where an outbreak may occur. You may recall at the end of the school year, the 8th graders were not able to finish the school year in person, for example. If we would have had only a mask recommendation at that time, it's feasible to think, or reasonable to think, that the health department may have said that the middle school needs to return to face coverings for the remainder of the school year out of concern of outbreak in the other grade levels. So that might be kind of an example of something that could take place, but that would only be in those extraordinary circumstances. Let's see. They're obviously not prohibited. I want to make sure I put that in the plan. If people are vaccinated and want to wear a mask, that is certainly appropriate and fine as well. So it was just important to make sure that folks know that that is true, and obviously then the masks need to follow all of our dress code guidelines and concerns there. Any questions on that particular slide?
I have a question.
Sure.
So we know that elementary school age children are not approved for the vaccine. So does that mean at the elementary level, the students will still wear masks since they are not vaccinated?
We're still getting some guidance on that. And Mr. Martin, you can weigh in if you like. At this point, it is still just a recommendation. It's not going to be a requirement. K through 12. A lot of that hinges on what we know about the transmission. When I say we, I don't want to sound like an epidemiologist. I continue to remind people I'm a doctor, but not that kind of doctor. But what we hear and talk to our health department about, the transmission of it in the younger grades, that we're still, it's a K-12. Technically, it's an optional mask situation. Mr. Martin, you want to elaborate on that at all? And I will point out, as he's strolling to the podium, that under our current governor's executive order, grades K through 3 is optional to begin with. So we're really only talking about basically three grade levels at that point. Yes.
So that the window is beginning to show some opening for the next group. Right now, we're down to the 12 years old, and they've applied for authorization for the next group, which is the next 5 years, most likely going down to 7. That gets us, the 3rd grade is, I never heard back on my last inquiry. They put out a mixed message. When they put out this message that we used to build this document, they had 0 to 12th grade, 0 years old to 12th grade were
Right.
listed, but they didn't have 0 to 3rd grade in the
On
governor's
on
order.
previous,
so-
on the
right.
previous order, right.
So
So
we've
in our
asked-
last conversations, the recommended for unvaccinated, but we're also in a different place to start the 21-22 school year than we were in 2021, where there's a great deal more data for parents to consider. We do know, we did survey our staff at the conclusion of this school year in May to try to get an idea on the percentage of staff members that will have at least 1 dose of the vaccine prior to the start of the school year. And it's an extremely high percentage of our staff members who will have at least 1 dose. So if we're talking about the populations and the concern with symptoms from COVID, this is the place that we felt the most comfortable in the conversation, that it was time to allow the parents to make that determination for their own family with the information now that is voluminous to help you make those decisions as a family. Yeah. Yeah.
Hopefully we get that 7 years old and above here pretty soon.
Yeah, yeah, that will be dropping. I think, sounds like maybe by midsummer, then that age is going to drop again to make it available.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just, in my opinion, I think we need to be consistent with whatever message, whatever
Yep.
decisions we make. If it's a recommendation across the board, all, let individuals, parents, make the decisions for their own children.
Yep.
And not have any type of differentiating set of rules. So
Yeah,
make it all a recommendation.
It's very difficult to
Absolutely.
find the right language
Yes.
in choosing the right words to make what our official statement is going to be. If a school district says we recommend face coverings, some may interpret that to mean that we're going to screen students and teachers are going to have lists knowing who's vaccinated and who's not, and that sort of thing, and that's not the case. This is not the case. So by choosing your words rightly or wrongly, you can influence folks' thought process. I struggle with the word optional because it sounds as though we're discounting the CDC recommendation that if you're unvaccinated, you should wear face coverings. So there may be some that interpret the word recommendation as, we think less of this person if they don't wear a mask. That we're making some sort of value judgment on it. And so what it boils down to is, again, there's a great deal of information now that parents can make this choice for their families. And Mr. Martin will back me up on this, that if a parent and family says, I want my child who is vaccinated to wear face coverings, that's absolutely fine. And if they forget their mask, we have plenty, right? Because people were wearing their own, right? I mean, it didn't take long for people to wear their own. So we still have quite an inventory. So for those 1 or 2 situations where the child forgot it that day, we can help with that, and will. So that it's just very hard to choose the right words. But where we've arrived at is a place that vaccinations are available, and so you know what choice you're making now in a much different realm than we had before. Transportation's a little bit trickier right now. We're getting some clarification on this. Are we public transportation that falls under the current federal guideline, which is masks are required on public transportation? So the question is, are school buses public transportation, or is a school bus a public school that provides transportation. And I'm not trying to be cute.
Yeah.
I'm really not trying to be cute with that definition. We're not the New York subway system. We're not, the Minneapolis bus system. We can track. We do have seating charts. We do have much more contact tracing capabilities. So we're not that type of public transportation. I would tend to interpret it as the latter, which would lean me toward our buses would operate like classrooms.
Yeah.
But the reason it's in red up there is because we haven't made that determination yet. But we will by the time we come to you in July, or by July 1, we'll get some more guidance around this. But this is one superintendent, and this is my opinion, and we all know what that means. But I tend to think that we are a public school that provides transportation, and that it should fall under the school board's purview on how we want to handle that under that new authority that you've been given. So more to come on that. On the transportation. Food service, the long and short of this is we're going to require masks of food service workers until further notice. That's really all that slide says. There's some other complicating factors in there about the fact that we have a private company management system, and we are the employer of the food service workers. And so sometimes those policies don't always align on what you can require and what you can't. So the good default position right now is food service is going to wear masks until further notice. Recess will have some more normalcy to it, certainly from the scheduling standpoint, but we won't have activities where students are going to be kind of smushed together all in one all in one spot. I guess no gaga ball pits for at least a little while longer until we can be a little bit more confident. But we'll be able to schedule our students in a little less cohorted manner, continue to clean the equipment as we have been, but there'll be some more normalcy, and I know that'll help our scheduling situations at the elementary as well. Athletics, we'll get back to you, okay? We got a little time before the opening game,
On a
right?
day-to-day basis.
We got a little bit of time. Things are looking up there too. I mean, I think things are looking up. Certainly outside activities, things are looking up for sure. We still got to figure out the volleyball, how that's going to work for spectators, but we'll get there. Athletes are following Dr. Kraft and Health Department and IHSAA. We'll play the game the way it's supposed to be played, no pun intended, but we'll get back to you on the spectators. Communication of positives is slight changes in this. We do have to still report our positive cases and our contact tracing information to the health department. We anticipate that's going to remain in place for probably through the first semester at the very least, if not through the whole school year. We'll continue to maintain our weekly dashboard that will show our positive cases by week on our website. I anticipate the state health department will also have the county by county information and school information that we provide to them. We are not, however, going to continue the practice of sending out mass communications for every positive case as it happens in real time to begin the 21-22 school year. If we begin to see hot spots and outbreaks happening within any of our grade levels in our schools or any of our individual schools, we of course will communicate with those families so that to the degree we can, if we had to shut down a grade level, it won't come as a surprise as much as we can. And then all the rest is just things that we've already talked about. We'll continue to take our cue from the health department on all of that, all of those things that we had listed, if they have to change. So any questions from the board?
A lot to think about.
Yes.
It is a lot to think about. The bottom line is things will be a little bit closer to normalcy in our classrooms. We certainly have more students and staff that are in a different place, and we just know how important that literal face-to-face communication is, especially in our primary grades, our K-1-2. You know, we say it all the time. You know, there's a stage where students are learning to read, and then they shift to reading to learn. And when we're learning to read in those formative years, K-1 and 2, you know, that watching the teacher form the words. I mean, there's just so much in that gets lost in that reading comprehension and communication and nonverbal communication is so critical. So we're happy and hopeful that we can get back to some normalcy on that front.
I know you'll meet regularly with the county health department.
Yes.
What have you heard from the state as far as further guidance? Is it just kind of on a rolling basis? Is there a certain date they're going to give more information?
I think other than some of those clarifying questions, I can't think that Lebanon Schools is the only one with the question about the younger students, for example.
Definitely.
They have weekly webinars specific to schools.
Mhm.
So each Friday, they're done. Okay.
So they're done talking to us for now.
Okay.
Until they have something to say, then they will contact us again.
Yeah.
But they've given us that last slide set, was the last one until some change, plus it's probably the next change.
Yeah, transportation, and they may not give us guidance on that since it was the federal CDC. So I think for the most part, it's us and Boone County Health Department
Okay.
at this point. Yep. Who has been wonderful
Yeah,
through the whole
absolutely.
process. Yep.
Definitely. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Anything else on that? Okay, as we just said, our next board meeting is July 20th, here at 7 o'clock. There is no further business. We are adjourned. Thank you.